It's time to wrap up our projected record series here, and we'll go through each of the Power 4 conferences, starting with the Big 12. We're starting with the Big 12 because I didn't do any videos on the Big 12 teams. Just didn't make it there. We did every SEC team. We did every Big 10 team. Did some of the ACC. We'll wrap up the ACC and show everything there as well. But we're going to, again, kind of wrap this up, show you the projected records, the potential standings based off of our formula. And for the Big 12, we're going to go through all of the schedules because I didn't do those schedule videos. So we're going to quickly go through each team's schedule, take a look, and then again, I'll give you those projected records and those potential standings, again, based off of this formula. The Big 12 was very hard to predict last year. Oklahoma State, Utah, everyone had them as the favorites. They finished at the bottom of the conference. Arizona State, BYU were not predicted to do a whole lot. Those two teams were really good. Iowa State, some people did have them in the in that Big 12 conversation, championship conversation. So, every team didn't go totally different than we expected, but there were definitely some surprises at the top and the bottom. So let's go through the schedules. We'll start with Arizona. You'll notice they play, we'll just run through the games. So they'll play Hawaii, Weber State, Kansas State, at Iowa State, Oklahoma State, BYU, at Houston, bye week at Colorado, Kansas, at Cincinnati, Baylor, and at Arizona State. You look at their non-conference, Hawaii, Weber State, not too tough of games there. That Kansas State game is actually a non-conference game that will not count towards the conference standings. They will play, play BYU and Arizona State, so a pretty tough schedule here for Arizona in the conference, and again playing Kansas State in what is technically a non-conference game. We'll look at Arizona State now. They play Northern Arizona, Mississippi State, and Texas State in the non-conference. That's where they will begin things off. Do play on the road at Mississippi State. The Cowbells will be out. Maybe don't sleep on that game. We'll see. They'll play Baylor on the road. After that, then TCU, a bye week at Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, at Iowa State. Another bye week, West Virginia, at Colorado, and they'll play Arizona. So they're going to play, not a horrible schedule. Non-conference is not bad at all. And again, the Mississippi State game could be a little tricky, but Arizona State should be a much better team. That Baylor game on the road, that one's going to be tough. Utah could be better this year, so that one could be a little bit tough. But they don't play BYU. That's the good news here. They don't play, as I look through some of the top teams, they do play a lot of the other teams near the top. So that's the schedule for Arizona State, and we'll compare the conference schedules here in just a second as well. We'll go to Baylor now. They'll play Auburn, SMU, and Samford in the non-conference. Pretty tough non-conference schedule with Auburn and SMU. But their conference schedule is actually pretty easy. Arizona State, obviously, that's going to be tough. But then it's at Oklahoma State, Kansas State, bye week at TCU, at Cincinnati, UCF, another bye week, Utah, at Arizona, and Houston. So, again, outside of Arizona State, they do avoid some of those top teams. This could be a very favorable schedule for them in the Big 12. Let's move on to BYU. They'll play Portland State, Stanford, and East Carolina in the non-conference, so not too tough there. In the Big 12, they've got Colorado on the road, West Virginia, at Arizona, Utah, at Iowa State, at Texas Tech, TCU, at Cincinnati, and UCF. Again, there's the schedule there for BYU. Not too tough in the non-conference, and they don't play Arizona State. So pretty good. The thing with the Big 12 schedules, because there's so much parity and because you play 9 games, everybody's going to have a pretty similar schedule. It's not like you're going to have really easy ones and really tough ones like in some of the other conferences. You look at Cincinnati next. They'll play Nebraska. That game's in Kansas City. That'll be a good one. Bowling Green, Northwestern State. They've got at Kansas, Iowa State, UCF, at Oklahoma State, Baylor, Utah on the road, Arizona, BYU, and on the road at Utah. Then we go to Colorado. They got that game against Georgia Tech on Friday night, kicking off the season. That should be a good one. Delaware at Houston, Wyoming, BYU at TCU, Iowa State. A bye week before playing on the road at Utah. Arizona at West Virginia. Another bye week, Arizona State, and at Kansas State. So you look at some tough games in there with Arizona State, at Kansas State to close things out. Those will be big ones again at the end of the season. Next we go to Houston. They'll play Stephen F. Austin on August 28th, then on the road at Rice. Colorado on September 12th. And you see the stars, those mean that these are weeknight games. They have a bye week before playing on the road at Oregon State. Then it's Texas Tech at home, at Oklahoma State, Arizona, at Arizona State, West Virginia, at UCF. A bye week, TCU, and they close things out On the road at Baylor. Next, we've got Iowa State. They're going to play a week 0 game in Ireland against Kansas State. Then South Dakota, Iowa at Arkansas State. Then they actually get a bye week in there because of the week 0 game, but we couldn't fit that in. So bye week in between Arkansas State and Arizona. Then you've got on the road at Cincinnati, then at Colorado, back-to-back road games. A bye week before BYU. Then Arizona State at TCU, another bye week. Kansas, and on the road at Oklahoma State. So some tricky games with back-to-back road games. Cincinnati, Colorado, having to travel to Ireland. So Iowa State will do some traveling this year for sure. How about Arkansas State on the road? Don't normally see Power 4 teams go on the road to Group of 5 teams, but Iowa State will do just that. Next up, we got Kansas, another team that plays a week 0 game. They're actually going to play Fresno State on week 0. That could actually be a sneaky good game. Then they've got Wagner at Missouri. Then they will have, again, a bye week that we couldn't fit on here, but there's a bye week between Missouri and West Virginia. Cincinnati on the 27th, then on the road at UCF, at Texas Tech. Then they'll get another bye week. Kansas State at home, Oklahoma State at home, at Arizona. Bye week at Iowa State and Utah. So that's the schedule for the Jayhawks. Kansas State, again, they will have that Ireland game as well. North Dakota, Army on September 6th. Then it's on the road at Arizona, UCF. Actually, a bye week in between Arizona and UCF. Then at Baylor, TCU, another bye week at Kansas, Texas Tech, another bye week at Oklahoma State, at Utah, and Colorado to close things out. Next, we've got Oklahoma State, UT Martin on the road at Oregon. That'll be a tough one there in the non-conference. Then Tulsa, Baylor at home at Arizona, Houston, Cincinnati at Texas Tech, at Kansas. Bye week, Kansas State at home, at UCF, and Iowa State. So Oklahoma State does have a pretty tough schedule there in the Big 12. Next, we've got TCU on the road at North Carolina, then a bye week before Abilene Christian, SMU at Arizona State, Colorado at Kansas State, Baylor at West Virginia, bye week Iowa State at BYU, at Houston and Cincinnati. Again, you see back-to-back road games there with BYU and Houston. Texas Tech will open up with Arkansas, Pine Bluff, then Kent State, Oregon State. On the road at Utah, a bye week before playing Houston on the road. Kansas at Arizona State, Oklahoma State at Kansas State, then BYU, UCF, and another bye week before playing West Virginia on the road. Next, we've got UCF. They'll start out with Jacksonville State, then North Carolina A&T, a bye week, North Carolina at Kansas State, Kansas at Cincinnati, West Virginia, bye week on the road at Baylor, Houston at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and on the road at BYU. Next schedule, we've got West Virginia, Robert Morris, then on the road at Ohio, Pitt at Kansas, Utah at BYU, bye week, then on the road at UCF, TCU at Houston, Colorado at Arizona State, a bye week, and Texas Tech. So those are your schedules. This is how it shakes out in terms of difficulty. And again, this is based off of last year's records. So we're looking at their opponents this year in 2025, but their opponents' records in 2024. So TCU's opponents this year went 50-31 last season. You see TCU and Utah with the toughest schedules by a decent amount there, actually. Again, this is just looking at the Big 12 schedules. You got Arizona State with a tougher schedule than Colorado, West Virginia, Arizona, Houston, Iowa State kind of in the middle of the pack. Same thing with Kansas State, BYU, and UCF. Oklahoma State's opponents went 47%. And then you get to the easier schedule. Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Kansas, and Baylor. So look for those 4 teams to potentially to have a chance to do better than you might expect. And then again, you go back to TCU and Utah. Maybe those teams do a little bit worse than you would expect. Again, just based off of the difficulty of their schedule. And of course, these numbers don't tell the whole story. We're going to see teams that are a lot better this year and teams that are a lot worse. And so this does not give you the whole picture, but it's just something to look at. And it's with the Big 12, maybe it's not something to look at because these teams seem to change so much year to year. But those are the numbers. Let's get to the projections now. And again, this is with our projected record formula. If you're not familiar with it, you can go back and watch our projected record videos that we did for, I don't know, maybe 40 teams. And you can see how we did the projections. It's all based off of that formula. These are not predictions. We'll be doing predictions here in a few weeks. We'll be, starting those off. But this is just based off of that mathematical formula. No human element here. Let's get into it. So at the top, we've got Arizona State projected to go 10-2. Projected to be at the top of the Big 12. I tend to agree with that. I think this will be the best team in the Big 12. And then we've got BYU projected to go 9-3. So these are your top 2 teams. If it plays out this way, these are the teams that would make it to the Big 12 championship game. Although we are looking at overall records, not conference records here. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, Utah and Oklahoma State, those were the top 2 teams for me last year, and they didn't get there. I think Arizona State is a safer pick than BYU. I think BYU's schedule could be a little bit tricky for them in the Big 12. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, again, I don't want to jinx Arizona State, but I feel pretty good about this team. And remember, I was high on them last year, not as high as I should have been, but I said this was a team that could be a surprise in the Big 12. And again, they turned out to be a bigger surprise than I thought. But I think they bring a lot back. They could definitely potentially win this thing again. But BYU brings a lot back as well. Watch out for that team. Then we've got a cluster of, actually, I guess I got my videos out of order. Maybe we forgot the Utah schedule. This is the Utah schedule. At UCLA, Cal Poly, at Wyoming, Texas Tech, at West Virginia, a bye week, then Arizona State, at BYU, Colorado, Cincinnati, another bye week, at Baylor, Kansas State, and on the road at Kansas. So we'll throw that in really quickly. Again, I must have missed that one. Now we'll go back to the projection. So it's Baylor, Iowa State, and Texas Tech, all projected to go 8-4. So again, based off of how good we expect the teams to be, and how the schedules play out, these are the teams to watch out for in the Big 12. Baylor, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. And I would say, again, there could be a surprise, but I would say that the teams that make it to the Big 12 championship game more than likely will come from these 5 teams, because again, these are the better teams in the conference, and their schedule's set up pretty well for them. So I definitely think we will see 2 out of these 5 teams get there. Baylor, Iowa State, Texas Tech, all have a chance to, in my opinion, to be real contenders in the Big 12 this year. All of them, I think, are to be very solid teams. And like I said, the schedule sets up pretty well for them. Now, let's go to our next cluster of teams, Colorado, Kansas, and Kansas State. These teams all projected to go 7-5. You know, I've got Kansas State, Colorado right there with that other group in terms of tiers. But their schedules maybe are a little bit tougher. And then Kansas, I've actually got a tier below, but their schedule is favorable. So that's why you see them here at 7-5. I believe Colorado and Kansas State will be better than Kansas. But again, the mathematical formula here does project 7-5 for all 3 of these teams. So I would say these are more like your dark horse teams. Although I don't think you would call Kansas State a dark horse. I think there will be people that will predict them to go to the Big 12 championship. But yeah, they do come out a little bit lower in these projections. Next, we go to a cluster of teams all tied at 9. So these are probably really your dark horses. These are the teams that I don't really expect people to be predicting. Cincinnati, Houston, TCU, UCF, and Utah, all projected to go 6-6. So that means these teams right there on the edge, potentially getting to a bowl game, maybe having a pretty good 7-5 type season, or possibly dropping down to 5-7 and missing out on a bowl game. I'll go ahead and say right now, I would predict that one of these 5 teams will miss a bowl game. I don't think all 5 of these teams get to a bowl game, but I also think you could see a surprise team out of these 5 teams, maybe an 8-4 type season. I'm looking at TCU. They definitely could be in that conversation. Utah, although their schedule is really tough, this is a team that you don't expect to be down 2 years in a row, so possibly watch out for them. Again, this is, to me, kind of that dark horse category with these teams tied, all going 6-6. And then finally, we get to the bottom 3 teams. We've got Arizona, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia, all projected to go 5-7. I would say these teams are a little bit further behind the dark horse teams, probably not with a real shot to even surprise. And who knows, maybe they will. I sure didn't see, Arizona State getting all the way to the Big 12 championship game last year. But these teams figured to be near the bottom of the Big 12, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. I wouldn't be surprised at all if 1 or 2 of these teams actually get to a bowl game. But again, when you do the formula, the projection is 5-7. So those are the projected records for the Big 12. Again, I apologize for not doing individual videos for these teams. It just didn't work out this year. But I did want to recap, or at least show you the projections and kind of show you what the standings could look like with this recap video. And we'll do this with the ACC as well, so we can hit on those teams that we did not do videos on. And then we'll also recap, again, the Big 10 and the SEC and show you what those projected records look like potentially in the standings. So love to get your thoughts on the Big 12, your projections. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with from this video down in the comments below.